am delighted that you have found the Mindset Mentor Meets podcast. I'm Angela Cox, your host and indeed the Mindset Mentor, and I'll be interviewing executives and founders at the top of their game to find out what lies beneath. I want to know what makes people proud, how they define success, what holds them back, and indeed what drives them forward. This is authentic and natural conversation with the best in the business. So listen in, enjoy, and if you love what you hear, please do leave a review. And now, over to today's guest. My special guest today is the sensational Nigel Botterill. He's laughing already. He is the most sought after business growth expert in the UK. And in my opinion, he is one of the few who will help you to do exactly that without selling your grandmother. He's the CEO of the Entrepreneurs Circle, which is a business that I've come to adore over the last year. And Nigel's also, get this, he's a Sunday Times best-selling author. Most importantly, he's a father of four. He's husband to Sue, and he is a genuinely nice guy. So it's with much excitement that I welcome you, Nigel, to the pod.
Wowee. That's a fun one. Well, thank you for that very lovely introduction. I feel very humbled to be here. The Sunday Times thing is funny, you know.
Go on.
I don't know that you know this. The book is Botterill, and it's a long time ago now. It was 2012 when it was published.
Wow.
But it did get to number 11 in the Sunday Times best-selling list of like all books in that week. And he got to number 11. And you've no idea how disappointed I was that he got to number 11, because we did all our research and we'd worked out, if you want a book to go high up the Sunday Times list, then February is the month to publish it.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because you have to sell less books in February to become top 10.
Okay.
And so I did all the research and we worked this out, and we had a big campaign to sell the book. The book was published, and we did a lot of things to help promote it. And it was published on the right day, so we maximised the sales all the same week. And we had to sell, it was just over 3,000 books would get us in the top 10.
Uh-huh.
And we sold 3,126, as far as we could tell. That's what we'd sold. So we thought it was all kind of nailed on. And the charts come out, or they certainly did, 10 years ago, a bit like it was with the music charts.
Yeah.
And we were all buzzing and thinking, we're going to go, maybe number 7 or number 8 sort of thing. And they came out and they'd launched, we'd missed it completely. They'd launched the new edition of the Highway Code that week.
Oh, my God.
And everything flipped down a place.
You got no chance, have you?
and so I became a top 11 bestseller. So there we go. So that is the truth of it.
Well, I mean, you're in the top 2%, aren't you? Because hardly anybody gets on that list in the first place.
No, that is true. And I mean, the book actually stayed in fact, it went out of print last year, but it sold over 100,000 copies.
Wow.
So, I mean, it did all right, did Botterill. We're very pleased about it, but yeah.
It did all right.
But the Sunday Times best-selling author, there's a little bit of what's artistic license in that. So,
yeah, I mean, it sounds better than number 11 best-selling author, doesn't it? So we'll just leave it as that. I bet your mum was proud, though.
Oh, bless her, she was. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I mean, that's a moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think there's actually a lot of truth in that, because as an entrepreneur, in truth, that publishing the book had quite a big impact on my mum, because she still doesn't really understand what I do. And she'd much rather I had a proper job. And
like you had before.
I think when you actually publish a book, you go, maybe there is something, maybe he does know what he's doing after all. So it was a little bit like that.
I love that. It's like the stamp of validation from mum. Now, we're going to talk about your proudest moments today, and that, of course, is one of them, but I'm sure there are many more, because you've had such an amazing career, starting in corporate, and then you came out of corporate and you've built so many amazing businesses that have kind of flourished and become that ultimate 7 figures that many an entrepreneur desires. So I'm really excited to see what you're going to share with us today in terms of the 3 most prominent moments in terms of pride.
I found this quite difficult.
Yeah, everybody does.
And I think especially for entrepreneurs, although I think anybody that has achieved success, I think part of what drives you is we're always looking at what's next. I say we're not very good at looking back.
It's so true.
Taking, that was all right. We did all right there. Because I did find it really quite uncomfortable and quite difficult to work out what 3 things I should talk about. But I have come up with 3. I might regret them.
No regrets. There's never any regrets, is there? It's all going to be good. Hit me with your first one. Let's go.
All right, we'll build up then, really. But I think I do need to talk about this first one because really, although I've been very fortunate with the choices that I've made in my career, but really all I ever wanted to be was a professional sportsman when I was growing up. Uh-huh. And I just loved sport, and football in particular was my game. And when I was a young kid, I remember, genuinely one of my very proudest moments. I'm going to embellish it a little bit, but when I was 8, I was invited to go to Saturday soccer. and Saturday soccer at my primary school, Halton Primary School in Leeds, that was where the aspiring
magic happened.
Footballers went, and to be able to go to Saturday soccer, genuinely, even now as I'm talking about it to you, I've got all prickly because it was such a massive thing to get invited to Saturday soccer as a kid and go and be properly coached and stuff. Although that was a massive come down when I got there, I thought it's going to be great. And you go as like an 8-year-old and you're all so excited. And I thought we're just going to play football, but then they start to drill you on just like passing the ball. Oh, God. You spend like the first half hour just passing the ball 10 yards and stuff, which is you struggle to get your head on when you're a little kid. But I lived for football, and I had quite a bit of success as a schoolboy footballer. Whilst I would have loved to have been able to, play the game at a higher level. That never really transpired. But my proudest football achievement, and I don't know this to mean anything to you at all, Angela, but you won't have heard of the Win Cup. But the Win Cup was the first trophy I ever won as a footballer, as part of the Halton Middle School's under-11s team. And our captain, when we won it, was a young ginger-haired lad called Stuart McCall. And a few people listening to this, if they follow football or have over the last 30 years, will recognise that name and know who he is. And he was our captain, and he was a class above the rest of us. Oh. But I'm still very proud.
Has he made it then? Because that name means nothing to me.
Stuart McCall became a very accomplished player, and he played in the Premier League. He played for Glasgow Rangers and for Everton, and for Scotland. He won a lot of caps for Scotland as well. I'm not in touch with him now. I've no idea where he is or what he's doing. But he was part of that Win Cup winning team in 1978.
Is that what that picture is on your office wall behind you? Is that the team?
Well, no, that's the Leeds United team.
Oh, well, same thing, really.
From a similar era. They're kind of relics of my boyhood. I still retain great affection for Leeds United and do follow them everywhere. But no, there are some historic little team shots there. But I don't feature in the football shots that are on my office wall. And it was a little bit of a toss-up between my first football trophy and winning the monthly medal at the golf club for the first time. But there are some things that they do matter, don't they? And
they shape you. And that is almost like a metaphor for what you do now when I'm looking at it from the outside, in that, this guy Stuart goes on to bigger and better things, but you've been part of the team that has helped him to create that, which is almost what you do. Well, it is what you do now. You're standing on a successful baseline and you're helping other people be successful.
That's a very interesting way. And it kind of segues into the second one, really. And with Entrepreneur Circle, the risk of sounding a bit like I'm kind of up myself here, really.
Oh, do. Come on,
well
bring it.
I do, because Entrepreneur Circle came out by accident. Do you know how it started?
Go on, I don't.
I'd launched a franchise business called The Best Of back in 2005. And we had a lot of success with that. We had a lot of franchisees, hundreds of them all over the country. And when there was the big kind of crash in 2008, and Lehman went under and everything else, we had that massive economic downturn. And I thought I ought to do something to help equip my franchisees for these challenging times. And so I thought I'll run some training for them. And I called it recession training, which was not the snappiest title of it.
Yeah, sexy.
But we had a training room at our offices in Solihull, and we invited them to come along. And we had 2 dates we put in the diary, and they both filled up. And the first event went really, really well. I was a bit surprised, because you never know when you do anything new. Yeah, you're never completely sure how it's going to land, And we were confident, went into it, give it our best shot. And the response was fantastic from these 50 franchisees that had come along. And so we were doing it again the following week for another 50. But that still left like another 100 franchisees that weren't coming to this training. I thought, oh, it's that good and it's helping people. We ought to try and get out a bit more. So I said to my team, I said, right, well, when this one finishes today, if you can stand at the bottom of the stairs with a video camera, and as they come down the stairs, just ask people what they'd say to their fellow friend who've not come on the training. I said, and then what we'll do, we'll send that video out and we'll do one more date and we'll mop up the others that want to come. And left it at that and got on with the day. It was a Thursday we were on this event. And so on the Friday, they sent this email out. And I got a call. It was only meant to go out to 100 of our franchisees, the ones that hadn't been on the training. And I got a call from one of my colleagues on the Sunday afternoon. And so we've got a problem. And that video that they did, I said, yeah, it's had 12,000 views on YouTube. Doesn't have 12. It's meant to go to 100 people. 12,000 views on YouTube. He says, you won't believe what they did. And so they sent this email out, but rather than send it out to the 100 franchisees, they just ticked the wrong box on the CRM system and they sent it out to the customers of all those 100.
Wowzers.
A big issue in itself, you know. But then what they realised straight away what they'd done. And by the way, I would love to say that we were,
marketing experts.
We designed all this and this is genuinely what happened. It was a genuine cock-up. And it all went wrong. Because what they did, they sent this email out to these wrong people, realised what they'd done, and so followed it up, like literally 15 minutes later, with a second email that said, oops, sorry, that last email wasn't meant for you. It was for our franchisees. You don't watch the video.
The brain doesn't understand, don't.
So everybody watched the video. And so we came in on the Monday morning to this massive inbox, which was most people were saying, oh, not to worry, don't gather, this sort of thing. In there were one or two saying, how dare you, this is a disgrace that you've sent me an email.
Yes, of course.
But in there were a few dozen people saying, how do we get on this training? It sounds really good. And so we had a little emergency meeting on the Monday morning. And well, all right, it's gone down very well. We have done this twice. Let's offer it to the customers of our franchisees. Let's see if they would find it helpful. So we put on 3 events, one at Blackburn Rovers Football Club in the Northwest. We did one at our training facility in the Midlands, and the other one, I think we went to Reading Football Club.
You went south.
So we went south to the Majeski Stadium and did it there. And we filled these events, filled up like really quick, sold out 100 people. That's all it was at the time, not big numbers. But we did this thing. And so we went out and did this event. And that was the very first time that I'd ever gone out and kind of done anything to an audience that wasn't my franchisees, my own kind of people. And I was gobsmacked because I thought that when I started out in business, which was, 8 or 9 years before this happened, and I do looking back now, I think my biggest strength was my acute awareness of my big weaknesses.
Yeah.
I was very aware that all the things that served me well in corporate life were now not really very useful at all when it comes to ploughing your own furrow and doing your own thing. And so I'd always reached out and looked to find ways and who's done this before, what can I learn from them? And so I'd committed to learning lots of stuff. I used to go on lots of events in America, conferences and stuff.
Yeah.
Pick up marketing and stuff. And I just thought that, as we all do, by the way, I thought I was normal. And I thought anybody running a business would be spending time learning new stuff and doing different things. But what these 3 events taught me, which came about because of the email that was that all the stuff that I thought was kind of fairly obvious and straightforward, if you don't know stuff, it's not. And it was a genuine kind of revelation to me that, oh my God, like lots of people don't know, like how simple Google Ads is to do and that difference it can make to your business and getting you a regular flow of leads or how to do this, how to do that. And that was where Entrepreneur Circle came from, because we did these events out and people were we got such a tremendous response. And they said, oh, what's next? What's next? But that was how...
Yeah, the appetite was there.
It was. And then, people started to implement stuff. And so we launched Entrepreneur Circle in 2010. Mm-hmm. And just as a little sideline, if I'm honest, at the time, I thought, just a useful thing to do. It might help a few people. But it very quickly caught on a life of its own. I mean, we have many thousands of members now, not just all over the country. We've got members
in the world,
in different parts of the world now. And I do think it's kind of like the reason why I'm on this planet, if that makes sense now. Yeah. Everything I do now is really about the furtherance of Entrepreneur Circle and making it more impactful and more useful to people, and helping it to make the biggest difference it possibly can. And that's where everything is kind of channeled and focused towards. And in terms of the second proudest thing that you wanted me to talk about, really, and I'm really kind of split, and I'm going to cram two into this.
Go on then, you're allowed.
Because the impact EC has had is huge.
It really is.
I mean, at one level, we've got quite a few little measures, and some are more robust and more worthy than others. There's hundreds of families. We had a Disney challenge a few years ago. Because if you're a parent with young kids, doesn't really matter, school-age kids, then the vast majority of those people would love to take their children to Walt Disney World in Florida.
Totally, yeah.
And if you run your own business, you can. And I said, well, if you've got a business that's trading, then what you can do is go down to the travel agent, as it used to be, and jump online, and you can book your Disney trip for 12 months' time. And it's probably, if you've got a family of four, you're probably in for 10 grand or 12 grand or something.
Yeah.
Holiday. But there's not a business that's trading that can't generate an extra 10 or 12 grand a margin in the next 12 months if the business owner really wants to do it.
Yes.
And that became a bit of a challenge. There was well over 150 families, accomplished that and took their kids to Disney. We're into the hundreds now in terms of millionaires, that have been created. We've got dozens of sizable exits. But actually on a day-to-day level, there are thousands of people living more fulfilled, more comfortable, happier lives as a direct result of Entrepreneur Circle. And I'm fairly cool with that as a kind of, that's all right.
It's kind of a nice return for you.
Yeah, we've done that. And that is, that's where it comes from. And the kind of cramming to it is because actually, whilst I've obviously played a part in that, which I am proud of, but actually it is my team that's actually made that happen, because there is way more to Entrepreneur Circle than just me, whilst I still play an important part in it. But there are over 30 of us here at ECHQ. And, most of those people have been with me for quite a long time now. Yeah. And, through most, if not all of the journey. And it's really been a proper team effort. And when I look around, I know in business, anyone that has a business of any kind of size, you need staff and you need a team to work with you. And it is like the biggest challenge is to get that right. And people are very
to keep them.
Yeah, exactly. And, and not just to keep them either, but to keep them performing and caring and, and actually genuinely pushing towards the same kind of goals. And we have 11 words that sum up what it takes to be successful in Entrepreneur Circle. And they're writ large on the wall. Yes. Outside my office here now. And they're in 2-foot high letters. I know you've seen them, and it says, do great work, not mediocre work, not enough work to get by. Do great work, give a shit. Yes. And don't be an arsehole. And actually what I'm really proud of is I've got, 32 people that completely, utterly.
They embody that, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They totally.
And, and I could not ask for a team that, there's no team anywhere that cares more than my team do and that give a shit in the way that they do. Yeah. And that's a brilliant thing. And that actually on a daily basis kind of energizes and inspires me. It's almost like the most useful thing in the context of this conversation that I'm proud of, because actually it helps, because I get out of bed with a spring in my step because I'm going to work with the team that actually are also getting out of their bed with a spring in their step. Your
energy is like infectious energy, and you bring it in every single interaction. I was with you this morning. It was there at 9:00 in the morning. I could be with you at 6 p.m. on one of your clinics, and it's there at 6 p.m. It's kind of a constant energy that you're drawing from your members and from your team. Yeah. And I describe you as this perfect blend of entrepreneurship and leadership combined.
Well, I don't know about that, and it's very kind of you to say that. I think, like most Yorkshiremen, I get very uncomfortable when people kind of talk about me in front of me. So
we call that humility. It's a good thing.
Well, I learned when I was very young that life is very short. Yeah. I lost a lot of my friends when I was still at school. The one thing it kind of left me with, because I came to terms with my own mortality at a very young age, and as did a lot of my friends that were left. Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing it left me with was to make the most out of life. And I've been very fortunate, really. I've had we all have setbacks and things in our lives, but fundamentally, if you can't attack the day with a bit of gusto, then, find something that, and the things we do now, it's not a difficult thing to get energized or enthused about the things that we do. And I think, for anyone in life, really, that life is really short to spend it doing things that don't make you feel good or better about yourself. And I know that's easy to say, and it's a lot harder to do. And I know people find themselves in all sorts of situations that are not through their own doing. But there's usually a way if you're prepared to think about it properly and do it. But I am very aware that I'm very fortunate now. I'm in a situation where I only get to do the things that I enjoy doing, which is lovely. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, you've earned the right for that, I would say. And I meant what I said at the beginning. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to find the Entrepreneurs Circle after lots of dabbling with different coaches and business experts. And I meant what I said about you'll show us how to do it without selling the grandmother, because there are so many out there who don't come from that place of good values, good morals. Whereas in your business, it feels, for me as a member of it, values led. And I really appreciate that.
Well, you learn things. It's all part of the journey, and it's very kind of you to say that, and I appreciate those words, Angela. I mean, we've had to find our way, if I'm honest about it, with EC. I mean, EC started, as I said earlier, in 2010. And, it's a very different organisation now to what it is then. And I did pay attention to lots of the bigger players in the market and what they were doing.
Yeah.
And some of them would fall foul of, the things that you just talked about. And I think when we made some of those mistakes, ourselves, but when I started my own business, I was very aware that, it was a great opportunity. I'd worked in large corporates and stuff and been stifled by policies and things that you can and can't do, which you don't have any choice when you work in large organizations and being, I've been part of management teams that had to take like really stupid decisions that none of us actually believed in, but we felt we were in a situation that had no choice. And when I've got my own business, I'm going to do the things the right way. And I think that is what we've got at the heart of EC. Now, everything now in Entrepreneurs Circle is governed by two things, really. Is this going to help our members?
Yeah.
And if it is, we should do it. And is it also going to help strengthen Entrepreneurs Circle? And if it is, then we should do it. And if anything kind of clouds either of those, then we won't do it. And that does help us. And what I've discovered, when you do the right things, the money then flows.
Yes.
And that actually is true. And that was quite a big discovery for me. Because I've done things in the past, there's little sneaky little tricks and things, but it's not as powerful as actually just being really honest and stuff. And so I'm glad we've taken the long route, really. And it was brought home to me with the third thing.
Go.
This is an interesting one because I had a really awful experience in 2015. It was the 4th of January, 2015. And if I put this in context, I went away at Christmas that year. We went to Mauritius. It was beautiful.
Nice.
We had a lovely family holiday in Mauritius over the Christmas of 2014. And at that time, I had a finance manager who was very involved in all aspects of the business, and she was very effective. And she'd announced that she was going to leave at Christmas. And she did put her heart and soul into the business. She was there all hours of day and night. And she told me that her partner had really given her an ultimatum, and she didn't feel she could commit in the way that she'd been committed. She was going to leave at Christmas. So that was a shame. I was a bit sad about that, but got on with that. And I'd recruited her replacement. And they were due to start mid-January. And I went away on holiday just before Christmas, 17th of December. And everything was great. And back in those days, and I'm slightly embarrassed to admit this now, but in very simple terms, I judged the health of my business by how much money was in the bank account. And we had a target for the year end. And again, I'll tell you, our target for the year end in December 14 was that there would be £750,000 in the bank account at the end of the year. And when I went away on a holiday on the last day at work, there was about £720,000 in. So we're very much on track.
Yeah.
And I've done everything's all sorted. Off I went, had a great time. And I came back 4th of January and my finance person's gone and my new people I'd hired couldn't start for 2 weeks. They weren't starting until mid-January. So I went on to the bank on the 4th of January, middle of the afternoon, expecting to see, something probably at this point close to 800,000 because we've got 4 days of January's gone now. There'll be some more money come in. And I went in there and looked at the bank account, and the bank account had £190,000 in it. And I thought, I must be looking at this wrong, and it genuinely was like disbelief. But long story, we were missing over £600,000. And I didn't know where it was. I didn't know what had happened. And I rang the number of my finance person that had just left, and that was the number no longer in service.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. And I called my two kind of most trusted lieutenants. In fact, I had to take them out into the car park. I couldn't even talk about it in my office.
I can see the emotion in your face.
Like, all this money's gone. And we had everyone thought, look, no, it's not there. And I rang the bank, and this is all the accounts. Yeah, I can see all the accounts. That's what you got with it. And we pulled the statements, and long story, a lot of the payments that I'd authorised before Christmas had actually then been cancelled, and then they'd been put through again between Christmas and New Year. And I still, to this day, I mean, it actually took about 6 weeks. We had to get the forensic accountants in to find out exactly what had happened. I don't believe there was any fraud as such that she actually took any money. But what there had been was systematic mismanagement of our accounts and our bookkeeping. For over 18 months, we've been invoicing people for memberships on a monthly basis, but never collecting the money.
Oh, my God.
But they've been invoicing, and by judicious moving of money and robbing Peter to pull Paul, she'd kept that, and she'd obviously realised what was happening. That's why she kind of bailed and left me with this massive problem. It was awful because I'd never had to worry about cash.
No.
When I started my business, we had a very nice lifestyle. I'd done quite well in corporate life. And Sue, at that time, when she was a full-time mum we had 3 kids when I started the business. Fabian came on a bit later, but Sue wasn't working. And when I started the business, I had remortgaged the house, and I'd taken $100,000 out of cash, which is a bit easier to do in those days than it is today.
Yeah.
And so I'd never had to worry about money because I always had that money to call on. I got the business moving quite quickly. And so I'd always been able to do what I wanted to do in the business and never have cash challenges until the beginning of 2015. And it was awful. I was thrust into this situation, which I know a lot of people in business, have had to cope with at one time or another, where, when the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning is, what money is going to come in today? Who can I pay? And you've got staff, and you've got people ringing you, asking when they're going to pay them and stuff. And it was bloody awful. And I kind of managed to eke things along, and I shed some staff. We had to make some people redundant to trim our cost base. We ended up getting, at that point, we owed a bit of money to HMRC, and I couldn't see any other way out of this at all. And so I took the decision in the May. It took 4 months to roll out. And in May 2015, I took Entrepreneur Circle into a CVA, so a creditors voluntary arrangement, which is a formal thing that allows you to still run the company, that you still run the company, but you agree to pay a certain sum of money every quarter into this pot, which the supervisor of your CVA then distributes to your creditors.
Yeah.
And the proposals that our creditors accepted, and our creditors were mainly HMRC, was that they would get paid all their money over 5 years. And so I did this now, and I fronted it out. I thought, I'm not going to let anyone have a hold on me on this. So I did a video that I put out explaining what had happened and told the whole story. Because I thought, well, at least if I do that, I can
hold your head up.
People can judge me, but at least no one can hold it kind of against me, as it were.
Yeah.
I don't hide anything. And from that came 2 things. The response I got was extraordinary. My PA at the time, Hannah, she collated all this. And there's a book, if I've got it, it's on the shelf behind me. I've still got it, and it's like 1.5 inches thick. And the letters and the messages I got were incredible. And they were exactly what I needed at that time as well. They were hugely helpful and helped me through this. And it became a little bit of a mission, because it would have been much easier to have just folded the company.
Yeah, of course it would, yeah.
I mean, much easier. What I hadn't recognised is the difficulties once you go into CVA. You come across the computer that says no. I mean, I couldn't lease a car. That. I mean, you can't do anything. I couldn't get credit from Viking on my bloody stationery bill at £500 a month. We had to pay that in advance because we got a CVA. And so it did cause a few challenges. But what we did, just wait there.
I'm waiting.
Sat on the wall opposite my desk. This is how proud I am of this. Because not people have got one of these.
Oh. Is that the exit certificate?
Yeah, it is. And we cleared the CVA
I love that.
1 year early.
Oh, wow.
And everybody was paid in full. Everybody's paid everything, and they paid 1 year early. And it was a conversation actually with the guys, Anthony Batty and co. They were the supervisor of the CBA, and I had some interesting conversations with them after it had all closed. Because again, you think you're normal, don't you? Because there was no question in my mind. Once I'd agreed this CBA,
this is what happens.
Then I'm going to repay it, and there was over £600,000 in our CBA. So we had to repay it over 4 years. Well, that's what we're going to do then, and so we'll repay it over 4 years. And that's what we did. And we got ahead. It was over 5 years, and we got ahead and started to make some payments to get rid of it. And so we cleared it, as I say, 11 months early when we cleared it. But I just hadn't realised that actually that was really unusual. And actually most CBAs actually do end in the company closing and in people losing money. And many of those that do clear the CBA, the creditors only get paid half their money, or they get a percentage of it. So it was quite an unusual situation that I hadn't realised. That little thing there, which is nothing at all, but you can see how it sits in my office. I could go grab it straight away, because that certificate is actually my single proudest moment as a business owner.
Yeah,
because I know that what we came through would have killed off most businesses.
Yeah.
And it didn't. And it's true, the old adage about what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, because we are a much better business because of it than if we hadn't gone through it. And whilst I'm not glad we went through it, because it was bloody awful, but there is, as there are with many things in life, that things impact you and shape you. And we are, I think, who we are and what we are to a large extent because of that.
Because of it.
But I am very proud that we got through it. And that's so that will be that was my number 3.
Yeah, I love that it had adversity, massive adversity as part of it, because you're right. It's often those moments that actually teach us the most lessons, change us for the better, and help us to start to move forward in a different way. Mm. And whilst you went into that with that values-driven approach and do the right thing, in terms of the trust that has created between you and the people that buy from you, that know you, that work for you, it's enormous, because you're going after something with that right mindset of doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gave us a much better and deeper understanding as well than we would have had without it, of what a lot of people in business go through. As I said, until that happened, I'd never actually had to worry about cash.
Yes.
I'd put myself in a situation and done things that meant I was never worried about that. No matter how empathetic you are or how much you try, if you've never actually had to face that situation, you can never understand it quite as well as somebody that actually has kind of gone through it and done it. So,
been there, done that. It's fabulous. Yeah. And you talk about, to all of us, around this kind of transition from the wannabe business person to the professional business person. And that transition journey is all about getting all over your numbers. That's one of your big ones.
Well, it is. There's no question at all. I mean, and I look back now, and I'm happy to talk about it, but really, it's a bit embarrassing. The fact that what had happened ultimately was my fault. The buck stops with me in that business. I didn't have the grasp on my numbers that I should have done, and I paid a really heavy price for that. That's the truth of it. And the thing about numbers, they're not. It's like driving a car. We all remember when we first got in a car to learn to drive, it was difficult, wasn't it? We're kangaroo hopping down the road or whatever and controlling the clutch and things. But actually, after not that many lessons, really, you get competent and you can do it. And I think numbers like that in business, because it's not overly complex. It's definitely not brain surgery. Any business owner with a little bit of focus and guidance can learn to drive their numbers in the business in the same way they could learn to drive a car.
Totally. Although it won't surprise you to know that I had one lesson in a manual and said, sod this. And then I learned in an automatic.
Well, but I think you're cutting edge there, because my youngest son is going to turn 17 in a few months' time. And we were chatting about this. And I think, nowadays, especially now with where it's going with the
electric cars.
Well, he's not going to need to learn to drive a manual, is he?
No brainer.
That's affected your life, has it?
God, no.
That's the point.
It's just saved me a whole heap of time and money.
I think you're ahead of the curve.
Oh, do you know what? It's been a joy to talk to you about your proudest moments. And I love the fact that they're so different, so varied. And you've given us a real insight into you, the man that sits behind this business expert that helps so many people. So I really appreciate your openness and honesty. Oh. Now, What's lush about this podcast is the final question, the killer question, is always about what you believe the secret to success is. And the joy for me is it is different every single time somebody answers this question. So I can't wait to see what the UK's most sought after business expert
I know
has got
the answer. I got asked the answer. I got asked this, or a derivative of this question. I do a few talks with schools and sixth forms in particular.
Oh, lush.
And I got asked a very similar question to this just last week, and by a very sharp sixth form pupil. She said, what did I think was the biggest determinant of people's success?
Very good question.
So it's a really kind of broad question. But I think I absolutely know the answer to this. I will go into bat and defend my answer against any other variables that you might get. And this applies, it definitely applies as a business owner and entrepreneur, but actually I believe it also applies more widely, however you define success in life, really. Because it all comes down to how you choose to use your time. And that, in a nutshell, is what it's all about. And in business, which I guess is my natural space and what I know, the people that have built something way bigger than themselves have spent time on the right things to make that happen. So many people in business get stuck in the day-to-day doing the doing the thing, whatever it is that they may do, whether it's dentists drilling teeth or accountants doing accounts or, salon owners waxing legs or whatever. And which is nothing wrong with any of that stuff, unless what you're trying to do is build a big business, in which case, for some time, each day and certainly each week, you have to get away from the doing and actually doing the working on the business and moving it forward. And, there's so many distractions nowadays. Whether it's Netflix or TikTok, social media is huge. We can all get sucked into our inboxes, can't we? For who's now there, and none of these things are helpful in helping us to create the business or the life that we want to do. And I think it's, as an individual basis, it's our ability to, and we all get it wrong some of the time. Just to be clear, I have a little sneaky TikTok myself from time to time. But my point is, but I also make sure I do find enough time to do the right things. And that's unfortunately, I've got to know a lot of very successful people, and they've managed to crack it as well and make sure that there's enough time in their weeks on the things that make the biggest difference. So that is my entry for your definitive answer to what's behind success.
Choosing how you spend your time. And from an entrepreneur's perspective, it's about working on the business as well as in it. And I guess we'll just add to that your premise of the 90 minutes.
Okay, completely.
Which has really helped me.
It's designed to make it accessible because, can I tell a story about how this?
Yeah, we've got another 5 minutes. So
this will just wrap this up nicely then, because I mentioned earlier when I started my business, I remortgaged the house, and no one was more driven to succeed, because no one in my family run their own businesses. Everyone thought I was a bit bonkers. All my friends and family, I'd had this good job. Well, kind of. Oh my God, Nigel's lost it. What's he doing? It's a disgrace. So I had to make it work, really, to avoid the humiliation of failure, really. And there was an old boy in the village, an old guy who retired where I lived at the time, and he took a bit of an interest. And he used to pop round and just spend half an hour of a cup of tea. I think it suited him. And I used to kind of try and suck the wisdom out of him. And it was about 3 months I've been going in my business. And he came around one day, and we were sat in my lounge having a cup of tea. It was the day that they toppled the statue of Saddam Hussein.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's when it was. March 2003. And he said to me, Nigel, what's the single most important thing you've got to do then for this business of yours to be a success? And that was a horrible question. I flipped. Well, that's what I figured. One way I've got to get, if I get enough customers, I said, I figure I'll be okay. Because if you've got enough customers, everything else gets taken. He said, Nigel, I think you're right. Phew. He said, so when are you getting and keeping customers today then? I said, sorry. He said, well, you're a smart guy. He said, I know that the success of this business is important to you. He said, and any sane, sensible person who understands that would surely have some time set aside each day to do the single most important thing. And I didn't, and I felt really stupid. But that conversation started a habit, because I'm a morning person. I'm a best in the morning. And so I started the very next morning using the first 90 minutes of my day, because I could do 90 minutes without losing concentration.
Yes.
I can't go beyond 90 minutes. See, I get distracted. Someone's got to give. But I can do 90 minutes. And I've started, and it's a habit I've had now for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
I focus first thing in the morning from 7:30 till 9 o'clock on the things that will make my business more successful, that will move me and my family and my enterprise to where I want it to be. And then I can emerge at 9 o'clock, kind of blinking into the lights, and I can deal with whatever the day throws at me. You know, I can look after my customers. I can do whatever I need to do because I've done the most important thing. And there's no question at all. You know, we've been fortunate to have a bit of success in business, but it's all been built in those 90-minute chunks.
Yeah.
And I think, and that is a manifestation of the secret to success that you asked. So
I love it. I love it. And we'll just finish on the fact that getting and keeping customers that you talked about in your house that day in 2003 has just manifested in terms of an amazing convention in Birmingham with 1,250 people listening to you and the wonderful speakers that you brought in, listening to you, sharing your wisdom on how we do exactly that. And it was an absolute triumph.
Yeah, well, thank you. No, it was great. It was a lot of fun, the convention, wasn't it?
It was.
We do enjoy it. I tell you, my biggest relief, though, Angela, and because the hardest thing about the conventions is selling the
tickets.
And so, I might have, because we had a fantastic event. It was in just a couple of weeks ago at the end of September, and we've sold over 1,000 of the 1,200 tickets for next year already, which I cannot tell you how light that makes me walk.
I bet it does.
The pressure off the shoulders is so we really appreciate that. They're already coming back next year, and we've got to try and we'll take it up and do an even better job next year. So that's right.
And anybody listening to this, if you want to be part of it, and I would definitely ask you to be, because it's amazing, you need to get in there quick because there's going to be no tickets left.
Yeah, that actually probably is true. gkcc.co.uk.
Absolutely.
Getting and Keeping Customers Convention, stands for gkcc.co.uk.
And we'll put that in the show notes so that people know where to come and find you. Nigel, I said you were sensational. You are sensational. It's been a joy talking to you about your proudest moments.
It's been fun. I've enjoyed that. It's been a nice afternoon chat, hasn't it?
That's what it's all about. That's what we want, people having good conversations. So thank you for your time and for giving it so generously. And I hope everybody's enjoyed listening. Take care for now.
Thanks, Angela.
And so, just like that, we're at the end of the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed your time listening today. And a big thank you from me for taking the time. I'd really love it if you would be able to leave a review, because it really does help us to get noticed. And if you haven't already, why not subscribe, and then you never miss an episode. I wish you a lovely rest of the day, whatever it is that you're doing, and I hope that you stay safe and well.